Everything in this neighbourhood has been destroyed. The bodies of the dead left abandoned on street corners.
Ще люди під завалами, там дома біля налогової в центрі, там два під'їзди уничтожені. Аж вон, якщо видно, от дом стоїть, подивіться. Вон, там два прольоти, там під прольотами люди.
Buildings are in danger of collapsing. Many homes have simply vanished. It's not yet known how many people died here, but the Ukrainian president is warning that the scale of the atrocity could be even worse than that inflicted on the town of Bucha, where graphic evidence of killings and torture has emerged following the withdrawal of Russian forces.
Вже є інформація про те, що у Бородянці та деяких інших звільнених містах кількість жертв окупантів може бути ще більшою. У багатьох селах звільнених районів Київської, Чернігівської, Сумської областей окупанти робили таке, що місцеві не бачили навіть під час нацистської окупації 80 років.
Ukrainian officials say the bodies of at least 410 people have been recovered since the army retook control of towns like this close to Kyiv.
Well, meanwhile, in Brussels today, NATO foreign ministers are meeting to discuss how the alliance is responding to the war in Ukraine. Going into that meeting, the chief of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, spoke briefly to the press. Here's a bit of what he had to say.
NATO foreign ministers will meet today and tomorrow. We will address the brutal war in Ukraine. This reveals the true nature of President Putin's war. Any targeting and killing of civilians is a war crime, and therefore NATO allies are supporting the international efforts to establish all the facts, to investigate, and to make sure that perpetrators are punished.
Well, covering that NATO meeting today for us is correspondent in Brussels, Dave Keating. Here's what he'd had to tell me a bit earlier.
This is a two-day meeting, and we can expect that the Ukrainian foreign minister who is participating in this meeting will be asking for urgently needed more assistance from NATO allies. In particular, Ukraine wants to see more anti-aircraft equipment coming over to Ukraine. This is equipment that was already promised but has been kind of held up and not delivered. The quite interesting thing about this summit is that tomorrow morning we'll see the participation of many non-NATO countries. The European Union will be participating. That's been the case for the past month. It's been participating almost as if it's a NATO member. And also Finland and Sweden, EU members but not NATO members, will again be participating, just like they have the last month. But this meeting sees new participants: Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Korea, and also Ukraine and Georgia. And it really shows the widening out of the concerns here. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, when he was previewing this meeting and speaking yesterday, he brought up China several times, as if it's a NATO member. That those and also Finland and countries are participating in the summit because there is increasing concern about China's refusal to condemn this invasion and the possibility that China is going to aid Russia in this war and the security implications that might have for China's neighbors, South Korea, Japan, Australia, etc. So I think there's going to be quite a global focus tomorrow on the reverberations of this conflict far beyond here in Europe. And speaking yesterday, he brought up China.
Dave Keating for us there. Now, Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban has said today he's spoken to Vladimir Putin to urge an immediate ceasefire in Ukraine. It comes as the European Union announces new disciplinary procedures against Hungary just a day after Viktor Orban won a landslide re-election. The EU is accusing Orban of flouting EU values, and the EU investigation into what's going on in Hungary is likely to take months, but Orban's government could lose billions of euros in EU funding. Vedika Bahel explains.
Speaking to applause in the European Parliament. The European Union on Tuesday triggered a never-used disciplinary mechanism against Hungary for eroding the bloc's democratic values that could see the country stripped of EU funding.
With Hungary, we've been very clear the issue is corruption. The Commissioner Hahn has today spoken to the Hungarian authorities and informed them that we will now send the letter of formal notification to start the conditionality mechanism.
The announcement comes just 2 days after nationalist leader Viktor Orban secured his fourth official term in parliamentary elections, where he attacked Brussels bureaucrats in his victory speech. In power since 2010, Orban has tightened control over democratic institutions, as well as restricting the freedoms of gay people and migrants after facing years of allegations of funneling taxpayer funds to associates.
Brussels should not punish Hungarian voters for expressing an opinion not to Brussels' taste in the elections. Brussels is making a mistake. The basic rules of democracy must be accepted by the Commission.
The conditionality mechanism was agreed by all 27 members in 2020 and designed to prevent misuse of EU funds by nations backtracking on the rule of law. Richer countries contributing to the joint bank balance demanded to safeguard the funds from those undercutting EU values, and it could ultimately rob Budapest of over 40 billion euros of EU funds, as well as over 7 billion in pandemic recovery payments that the Commission is withholding from Hungary due to allegations of corruption.
Now, in other world news today, the former president of Burkina Faso, Blaise Compaoré, was sentenced to life in prison for complicity in the murder of his predecessor, Thomas Sankara. Compaoré was charged